Sometimes, behind the closed door of an office, I have to say things that are simple but hard to hear, especially when sitting across from me is someone who truly believes they're doing everything right. They eat fruit, avoid excess fat, don't smoke, and yet their blood pressure is unstable, heart rhythm irregular, lab results all over the place. And when I ask what they eat for breakfast, they say grapes, a banana, maybe an apple, because that's healthy, right? Fruit is not the enemy, but after the age of 60, our bodies handle it differently, especially when eaten the wrong way, on an empty stomach, in large quantities, without considering kidney function, blood vessels, blood sugar, or hydration levels. We still believe that the food we've trusted since childhood couldn't possibly harm us, but it can. Silently, gradually, without symptoms. Let's begin with grapes. They're nearly pure sugar wrapped in skin and water, especially the sweet varieties sold everywhere today. Grapes quickly raise your blood sugar, especially if eaten alone, without protein or fiber. For older adults, this can cause sharp spikes in glucose and tiny inflammatory reactions in the vessels of the brain. The damage is microscopic, but constant. It may not show up for months, until one day your speech falters, your balance slips, your memory blanks. People rarely connect these episodes to grapes, but we see the link. Bananas tell a similar story. An overripe banana is no longer a starch, it becomes rapidly absorbable sugar. It spikes your blood glucose. Bananas are also high in potassium. For a young and healthy body, that's a good thing. But in someone over 60, especially with reduced kidney function or morning dehydration, that extra potassium can disrupt the heart's rhythm. Morning hypotension, dizziness, skipped heartbeats. Common consequences of such breakfasts. One patient of mine made smoothies with 2 bananas every morning, convinced he was doing something good. One day, after that same smoothie, he lost sensation in half his face. The diagnosis? A transient ischemic attack. Not just from the bananas, of course, but they were part of the storm. Now apples, here the story is different. Apples, even after 60, are truly on your side. They're rich in fiber, absorbed slowly, packed with antioxidants. They support healthy blood vessels and stable blood sugar. The key is to eat a whole apple, with the skin, not juice, not dried slices. Whole apples have been shown to reduce the risk of stroke, especially in aging women. Long-term studies back this up. I'm not asking you to give up fruit. I'm asking you to rethink how you eat it. Grapes? Never on an empty stomach. Only after a meal and in small amounts. Bananas? Only slightly underripe and never alone. Pair them with protein and a glass of water. Apples? Every day. They work for your health, so long as you don't turn them into dessert or drink. These small changes can lower your risk of stroke, heart strain, and blood sugar swings. I say this not as a theorist. I say this because I've seen what helps and what harms, year after year. You don't have to give up the taste you love, but you do need to be careful, because your body is no longer 30. It needs more attention, and I want you to stay in it as long as possible. With a clear mind, a strong body, steady pressure, and fluent speech. Watermelon. It seems to hold all the freshness and lightness of summer, especially for those who have spent years feeling their bodies slowly lose strength and resilience. I often see older adults reach for this juicy fruit, and it's easy to understand why. Cold, sweet, and seemingly offering instant relief from heat and fatigue. But there's a subtlety many don't consider. For many of my patients, especially those taking blood pressure or diuretic medications, watermelon isn't just a treat. It can be a hidden source of problems. Let me share the story of Martha, a 72-year-old woman I met a couple of years ago. Martha had led an active life, never sparing herself and always striving to stay fit. She took her hypertension meds regularly, and watermelon became her summer evening ritual. "It's just water in its purest form," she would say with a smile. But over time, Martha began waking up tired, sometimes losing her balance, growing afraid of falling. She blamed it on aging. Until one day, after feeling dizzy, she nearly slipped in the bathroom. When we reviewed her diet and lifestyle closely, it became clear. Her evening watermelon combined with her medications was causing her body to lose too much fluid overnight. Dehydration is a silent, unseen enemy for older adults. It lowers blood volume, reduces oxygen supply to the brain, increasing stroke risk and worsening memory. We adjusted her eating habits, watermelon only in the morning or early afternoon, in small portions, always paired with water or a light snack. The improvement was almost immediate. Martha felt energized again, the fatigue faded, and with it, her fear of falling. Now, let's talk about pineapple. A fruit many enjoy simply as a tasty treat, but one that hides important characteristics you should know. Pineapple contains bromelain, an enzyme that helps digest proteins. In small amounts, it can be beneficial, but for older adults, especially those on blood thinners, it can pose serious risks. Here's an example from my practice. Henry, a 78-year-old veteran from Arizona, loved ending his day with fresh pineapple slices. It was his sweet, refreshing ritual after a long day. But one morning he woke up dizzy and weak in his legs. A stark change for him. Tests revealed blood clotting problems that could lead to dangerous bleeding. The bromelain in pineapple, interacting with his medications, had thinned his blood too much, raising the risk of serious complications. Together, we modified his diet, limiting pineapple intake only in the earlier part of the day, never on an empty stomach, and always with his doctor's approval. Beyond bromelain, pineapple is very sweet and has a high glycemic index. After dinner, when the body slows metabolism, a sudden sugar spike stresses blood vessels and the brain, potentially causing inflammation and increasing stroke risk. Pineapple's acidity can also trigger nighttime acid reflux, a condition where stomach acid seeps into the airway during sleep, reducing oxygen supply to the brain. This chronic oxygen deprivation is linked to early morning strokes, the most dangerous kind. These stories aren't just about fruit. They illustrate how something familiar and seemingly harmless can turn into a serious health risk as we age. I share this not to alarm you, but to empower you to care for yourself wisely. Our bodies change, and what was once beneficial at 30 can become dangerous at 70. Fruits are part of life and joy, and I'm not asking you to give them up. I only ask that you listen to your body, learn to enjoy them the right way. Savor watermelon in the first half of the day, respect your dietary routine, be mindful of medications and your condition. Remember, caring for yourself is not about restrictions, it's about respect for your body. You deserve the best quality of life, and it's entirely possible when we learn to listen to our bodies and treat them gently. With age, our bodies grow wiser, yet they become more vulnerable at the same time. It is during this stage of life, when it feels like we've seen and learned it all, that habits once thought harmless and routine can deliver the most unexpected lessons. Let me share with you a story that deeply moved me and may change the way you view seemingly innocent rituals. Meet Robert, a 79-year-old railroad veteran from Virginia who dedicated his entire life to the tracks. There were a few things that brought him comfort and joy, and one of those was enjoying juicy, cool watermelon after dinner. Robert saw it as a little reward, a refreshing treat to quench his thirst and unwind after a long day. But one morning, his peaceful routine was shattered by sudden weakness and dizziness. When he tried to stand, the world spun wildly, and he collapsed to the floor. At the hospital, doctors noticed troubling signs. His blood had thickened, resembling liquid honey, which made it much harder to flow through his vessels. Tests revealed dehydration. His body had lost too much fluid without replenishing it. A CT scan confirmed a small but dangerous ischemic stroke, caused by a clot that had formed overnight as his blood flow slowed. What happened? The watermelon Robert trusted as a hydration aid actually worked against him. Its natural diuretic effects, amplified by a medication he took for blood pressure, triggered excessive water loss. This left his body dehydrated, thickened his blood, and combined with the age narrowing of his arteries, created a perfect storm for impaired circulation. All of this unfolded quietly, almost unnoticed, while he slept. But the story doesn't end there. Many of us grew up believing oranges and orange juice are pure health boosters, rich in vitamin C and good for the heart, yet the reality is far more complex and delicate. Citrus fruits contain a compound called furanocoumarin that interferes with liver enzymes responsible for breaking down many common medications. This interference can cause drugs to either accumulate to dangerous levels or become ineffective. Let me tell you about another man I know, Harvey, an 82-year-old retiree from Maryland. Each morning, he started his day with a glass of freshly squeezed orange juice, calling it his sunshine in a glass, especially when paired with his cholesterol and blood pressure meds. Over time, Harvey noticed increasing weakness and mental fog, especially in the mornings. One day, he fell right in his living room. Medical tests revealed dangerously high levels of his medications in his blood, which triggered a mild stroke. The culprit was the orange juice habit that quietly slowed his liver's ability to metabolize those drugs, throwing his system off balance. These stories are not about frightening diagnoses, but about the importance of listening to our bodies and respecting their complex chemistry. The liver is our living shield, and even natural foods can interfere with its work, altering how medications act in the body. That's why I advise anyone taking heart, cholesterol, or blood-thinning medications to approach citrus fruits with caution. If you love that citrus flavor, try replacing orange juice with water infused with lemon or lime. Much gentler and safer for your system. In closing, I want to remind you that in later years, balance is not a luxury, but a necessary. Balance in nutrition, medication, and mindful attention to your body's signals. If you notice dry mouth, mild dizziness upon waking, or difficulty maintaining balance, don't ignore these signs. They may be quiet pleas from your body for help. Each day is a precious gift, and to live it fully, we must be mindful of what we eat, drink, and how we care for ourselves. Let these stories serve as reminders that even the most familiar things can affect your health far more than you might realize. Treat yourself with kindness. Your body deserves respect and care.